welcome in to episode 26 of our Humankind Let's Play series. We are about to take our first steps in the contemporary era. Right at the end of the last episode, we moved up as the Japanese. Now, I'm going to start playing just a little bit differently for this last era. I'm actually going to, rather than play kind of optimal Humankind and talk about all of the different strategies, although we'll get into some of them, I am going to beeline an endgame condition, because based on the conditions we've set up, I'm interested in seeing just how quickly can you get to endgame and actually end the game once you have entered the contemporary era in Humankind. So, if you need to catch up on any of the episodes, down in the description below, there is a link to the first episode in the series. That will get you kicked off on a 26-episode extravaganza of all things Humankind. We talk strats, we talk all kinds of things. Also, if you check out the comment section on a lot of those videos, there's some great additional tips and tricks from different people who have been watching. Please continue to do that, because as always, 4X games are a constant learning experience, and no one has the best strats. Usually, it's a combination of how you want to play and different things, and you always learn fun new things from other players. So, if you like the content, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed so you know when I release more Humankind and other 4X genre, such as some upcoming Civ content I have coming out. Make sure you're subscribed to hit that notification button as well. Let's jump in to the game. Here we are in the contemporary era. Now, once we are in the contemporary era, there are 5 primary methods for how a game of Humankind will end. Remember, in Humankind, there are a couple of key differences from other typical 4X genre games that you want to keep in mind. The biggest one is that ending the game is not winning the game. Okay, so we have to keep in mind that when you end a game of Humankind, that does not mean that you have won the game of Humankind. The game of Humankind is won by whoever has the most fame. And so as you're collecting fame throughout the eras, you have to remember that that is the win condition for the game. You may be the person who ends the game, but will you be the person who has the most fame when the game ends? And so that actually sets up some interesting strategies and different things that may happen towards the end of a game of Humankind, which I'd like to talk about now. We have 5 primary end conditions. Number 1, you can conquer or vassalize all the cultures, all the players in the game. That's one way to end the game. A little more tricky, actually, in Humankind than in some of the other games, just because of city caps and different things like that. So depending on your settings, it can be tricky to get that one, which I think is kind of interesting. But that will trigger the end game. Again, it's not a win condition. That will trigger end game. There are scenarios where you could, in fact, actually conquer the entire map and not win the game, because you would not have the fame that maybe another player would have. That is entirely possible. Probably would be rare, but could happen. And that's what I kind of like about Humankind. So, number 1, you can conquer or vassalize all peoples. Number 2, you can reach the end of the tech tree. In other words, you can if you research absolutely everything in the tech tree, that triggers the end of the game. Again, that's our second win condition. So the first one is kind of a war win condition. The second one is like a hard science way to go, right? So if you research everything, that triggers end game. Our third way that you can end the game is what they call conquering Mars, which means you basically execute a space race. That is what I am going to demonstrate in this particular game. We're going to beeline the space race end condition, so the conquering Mars end condition. So that's going to be our condition that we go for to end the game. The fourth condition, if you have pollution turned on, is you can pollute the world so that it is no longer habitable anymore. That is another end condition. So that is, I've never tried that before. I think it might be interesting. But you can indeed actually, as a combined global community, over-pollute the world and create the end of the game through that. And so there's a tracker for that you can see right up here in the top. We're not polluting anywhere near levels that it's necessary to create that endgame condition, but that is a potential endgame condition. The fifth and final endgame condition in Humankind is you can get every single era star in the contemporary era. So if we look here at the era stars, if you get all of the era stars, every single one, three levels in all different things, that also triggers endgame. Now, you'd think, oh, like that might be relatively easy to do. It could be if you've set your empire up and you're kind of dominating. However, in order to get like the military star, you have to be waging like full-scale global like world war in order to get enough military wins in order to get that military star. The expansion star also becomes particularly problematic late game because there's no more land to be claimed. And so if you're not actively in large-scale wars where you are winning those wars and claiming territory and incorporating them into your lands, the military star and the expansion star get very difficult to get at the late levels of the game here. Also, the amount of gold and influence you have to earn in order to get those stars goes up pretty high. So this win condition actually is, it would take a while to collect all of these. However, it's a nice win condition because let's say you enter the contemporary era way behind in fame, but you know that you can kind of push for that and not end the game yet, then that's the kind of your end game condition, right? Because you want to collect as much fame as possible to try to catch up throughout the contemporary era to whoever might be ahead of you before they trigger whatever end condition they're going for, right? But you don't want to trigger an end condition if you're not ahead in fame. You want to keep trying to collect fame, so probably you're going to go for that get all the era stars end condition. So those are your 5 end game conditions, right? Those are the 5 conditions that end the game. And then when the game ends, it is the player with the highest fame score that wins. So again, it's not, you could trigger the end, you could be the person who triggers the end. That does not mean you win. Gotta go back and look at those fame scores. Obviously, we have a monster fame lead, so one of the strategies that you would pick up in Humankind is, if you have a lead, even if it's a slim lead, you probably want to beeline an endgame condition because you don't want other cultures to be able to catch you in the contemporary era. There are a lot of ways to earn fame in the contemporary era to try to catch up. Again, they might be maybe sitting back a little bit, maybe gathering some more stars in the previous era, and then catching you that way. Because again, once you've moved up, you don't have access to that anymore. But there are a lot of ways to get fame in the tech tree as well. So I just want to quickly take a look at that. Right off the bat, you see Research Institute. There's 100 fame. 100 fame is a substantial amount of fame in this game, and so 100 fame will move you places. So there's a research that gets you 100 fame right there. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that special projects like the one we're gonna go to, which is rocket science, all the space race stuff also gets you fame. So here you can see the space station, when you build it, gets you 100 fame. That triggers another project. The next project gets you fame. The next project gets you fame. So you actually start compounding fame towards your endgame condition, particularly with the Conquering Mars end condition. So there's a couple of end conditions that I feel like really lend themselves to gaining more fame and therefore maybe become, in my words, maybe superior end conditions. The space race, the Mars conquering, is one of those because you can gain a lot of fame from completing those projects as you're going through and getting to that endgame condition. So I think that the space race condition is a really it's just a really good one because you get a lot of fame that way. The other one that probably would get you the most fame is if you are going for that military win, if you're trying to conquer or vassalize every other empire, because you're going to be gaining a lot of fame that other players may not be getting. The expansion stars if you're gaining still size on your empire, the military stars if you're continuing to make those military conquests and getting those military wins. And so that's another way to kind of optimize and maximize fame. Probably the next way it would be just researching things, right? You can see when you get to the end of the tech tree, which if everything goes the way we want it to, we're not even going to get close to the end of the tech tree. But if you get to the end of the tech tree, there are a lot of fame gains from the very end of the tree. 300 fame from Space Orbital, 300 from Exosuit. We've got 300 from the military laser research. Neural implant is going to get you another 300, and then fusion reactor gets you another 300. That's a lot of fame. So if you find yourself behind, but maybe you have a high science score, but maybe your production is not where it needs to be to go for the space race, because for the space race end condition, you really need science and production to make it work. We'll look at that as we go through the rest of this series. But if you just hardline science and go for a science end, you can pick up quite a bit of fame at the very end And if no one else is producing science at the level that you're producing at and they don't reach this, that's a lot. 300, 300, 300, 300, 300. That's a whole bunch of fame that you could have access to that might be that catch-up mechanism for you at the end of a game of Humankind. So what you choose to do towards the end of a Humankind game, often it will have to do with where you stand in the game itself. Are you close to a lead? What fame mechanisms do you need in order to execute the catch-up mechanic? Or are you in the lead, and do you want to just beeline and get as quickly as you can to endgame because you know you have the fame lead that you need? So all of those things are things to think about as you approach and enter the contemporary era. Now, we've specifically chosen the Japanese for a reason, and that is the robotics lab is very potent. They also have our beautiful trait here, Blossoming Innovation, minus 20% on all technology costs when researching. This is big, because it's going to get us to where we need to go very quickly. So the first thing I want to do is actually go to our science tree here. We're technically teched for urban planning for one more turn. We're actually going to sub off of that, even though there's one turn left in it, because I'm going to try to absolutely beeline our endgame condition here. And our endgame condition is right here, rocket science. I've been mentioning this before, but we're going to need rocket science. We're also going to need access to uranium, and I believe we also will need access to aluminum. And so all of those things will be necessary for us. But in order to get us kickstarted, what we want to do is immediately go for rocket science. So I'm going to tech to rocket science. You see we have 4 different techs that we have to research before we get there. But the techs are not going to take that long to research because we are the Japanese and we're producing 17.7k science per turn. And that's without having put our robotics labs in, which are going to drastically increase that number as well. So we're going to beeline to rocket science. That's going to take us through radar. It's going to take us through aerial warfare. So we're going to get access to aluminum right away. And be able to put those resources in so that when we need them to build any of the buildings that we're constructing in our space race project, which I can't quite remember if you need aluminum or not. I know you need uranium. I'm pretty sure you need aluminum as well. So we're going to text straight there. Once we have that and we start projecting away at our space stations, we will then go straight to uranium because we will need uranium by the end to be able to build kind of our final pieces of our trip to Mars. And that will trigger our endgame condition. And again, we have a large fame lead, so that's why we want to get there as quickly as possible. So we're going to just beeline, as they say, and try to get to that end condition. Now, while we're doing that with our science, we might want to take a look at some of the wonders that are available to us. There are 4 of them in the contemporary era. These are pretty decent wonders, and obviously, and this has been commented on as well, and definitely like a great comment, we've kind of gotten such a large lead in this game due to multiple things. Number 1, the food wonder strat we pulled off, and number 2, the fact that the aesthete culture ability was completely broken, and they have nerfed it twice. They have nerfed it since we started this game. So we were picking up like 12,000, 15,000 influence using the culture ability when we were playing as the Franks with the aesthete ability, and that's down to like you're getting more like 1,000 or less with the new nerf when you use that ability. So that's much more in line and creating a much more balanced game. It was basically like you have to pick an aesthete culture to win, or at least to gain like influence at a ridiculous pace because it was such a good ability. They've brought that back down in line with everything else now. So again, will we build all these wonders? We certainly could because we're that far ahead. But I think we want to put those robotics labs in. I want to beeline our win condition, and I think the robotics labs will get us there. So we may not even claim these and leave them for, future people. Although again, wonders are worth fame. Fame is a good catch-up mechanic, so that's another way to grab fame as you're looking to catch up if you happen to be behind in fame coming into the era. All right, Christ the Redeemer, plus 20 faith, plus 40 stability. 40 stability is quite nice if you're having any stability trouble. On all cities, plus 10 food, plus 10% money, plus 10% industry. That's really on all cities? What a potent wonder. 10% increases in food, money, and industry is very, very nice. It does count as a holy site as well, which is really nice if you're pushing your religion across the map. So Christ the Redeemer, excellent wonder. The Empire State Building, plus 20 stability, plus 20% money generated from ongoing trade. If you are heavily trading, 20% money will absolutely skyrocket your gold production. If you have trades going on like we do in this game, where we're literally trading for every resource available on the entire map, this would increase our gold by a ludicrous amount. 20% on all ongoing trade in all cities is a large number. So the Empire State Building, very valuable for gold production if you're trading, right? It's very situational on that trade factor. And I found that with the new patches, the new updates over the last couple of months, that the AI is very stingy about signing treaties and giving you different things in this game now. I think they've done a little bit of a changing for that. All right, the Americana Stadium enables a fitting stage event, which periodically lets you allocate the Americana Stadium's effect between bonus money, influence, or stability. I have never played with the Americana Stadium. Maybe we build it just to see kind of what it's all about. I think that would be interesting. So we may choose the Americana just because I would like to see what it does. But I think it's probably interesting because it allows you to kind of maneuver around a little bit. Now, getting additional influence or stability is not that great. So when you're talking bonus money, I would hope that it's a substantial amount of money because Christ the Redeemer already increases me by 10%, and I get 10% money, and I get 10% industry. So if this is anything in relation to Christ the Redeemer's numbers, that money gain should probably be pretty high because I'm not going to use the influence or the stability realistically at this point in the game for the most part. Maybe stability if you're in kind of a full-on war, kind of conquering mode. And you're way above that city cap or something like that, or something like that is happening. But I think that the money is the one you're going to pick mostly here. So I don't know exactly what that looks like, though, from the project standpoint. Also at the Sydney Opera House, another really good wonder, plus 20 stability, and then on Settled City, plus 10% food, 10% money, 10% industry, and 10% science. So you'll notice, similar, we get more stability here, and we get a little bit extra faith. On all cities, we're getting 10%, but it's just money, food, and industry. The Sydney Opera House on Settled City will get you 10% food, 10% money, 10% industry, and 10% science, plus bonus stability on city and outpost. So there's some benefit to Sydney Opera House over top of Christ the Redeemer because you get that extra science. But your city also has to be in a settled state. So Christ the Redeemer is just that all cities, regardless of the condition they're in, it's pretty potent. So those are the wonders for the era. Again, I think we're gonna skip building them just because we built every single wonder from the last era, and we're gonna just beeline. But all very powerful wonders. If you can get a hold of them, they're very nice. Now, you do want to be thinking about what your end game is and how close you are to end game. Now, 10% increases over time is going to be huge, right? So you could think about things like that, but how many turns are left and how much value are you going to gain from that? Because you do have to spend turns building it, right? And you could be building other things that might get you other stuff. So wonders in the final era, I would argue not as important as wonders from kind of previous eras because those wonders effects compound, right? Turn over turn over turn, and all of a sudden you've had that for 100 turns. It's a very powerful effect because that wonder effect has been there for a long period of time and has really added to your empire. These end game wonders in the contemporary era, you're only going to have around for a small amount of the game. So there is benefit, but then you're weighing like, well, do I just build something else? For us, I think we're just going to build something else. We're going to one turn in robotics labs. Now, each robotics lab is going to get +5 pollution. So we're keeping an eye on that pollution. We're at 4 pollution in this city, so we could build, 3 of these and be fine, stay under that +20. So we can put at least 3 of these in before we have to think about putting in some more forest, which is definitely something that we probably should have done already, to be honest. And in fact, let's do a thing really quick. Let's buy out some forest, because it's something that we probably should have done a long time ago. Why? Because we have abstained from intoxicants as part of our religion. And so watch what will happen if we put some forests in on a couple of these tiles. Now, I want to make sure we're not going to burn our... Does this burn our... No, it shouldn't, right? We put a forest on this. We should just get increased yields, right? So there's no forest on this river tile. River tiles in particular are very potent to put forests on. So let's throw a forest. This is an 8-2. We throw a forest on there, and all of a sudden it is a 6-7. So we do lose a little bit of food, but we've now gained up to 7 production, and we're getting that -10 pollution as well. So now we're at -6 per turn in the city. So we could just kind of plop these down. We also have a ton of money, and so we can just kind of plop these down on river. If you hold the shift key, you can actually continue to build the same the same districts over and over again. So we're just going to continue to place these river. We're just going to build them basically everywhere. It's going to reduce our food production by a little bit, but it's going to increase our production by a large amount. And so we're just going to keep putting it down, build a bunch of forest. But only on river. I don't really care for putting it anywhere else because what that will do is actually kind of erase some of our gains. On river, we get access to both things, and hopefully we're actually exploiting both things, and so we can actually kind of optimize that. But this will allow us to have pretty much a ridiculous level of options as far as the pollution is concerned. We're not even going to be concerned with it now in this particular city. And actually, you know what? I'm not actually sure, now that we've done it, I'm not sure that the effect of a forest actually stacks. I don't know if anyone knows the answer to that question, but you saw we dropped down to -6 because we put 1 in, but then when we put subsequent forests in, it didn't actually reduce it anymore. So I'm wondering if that effect is only... Oh, it's -10 pollution for 2 turns. Oh, so you should... Interesting. Okay, so I'm learning something. So the forest effect is -10 pollution but it only lasts for 2 turns. Is that what that's saying? I think it is. And so really, when you're putting your forest in, you want to put 1 forest in, wait 2 turns, and then put another forest in, is what I'm assuming. So we actually kind of did it incorrectly there, except that we gained just a bunch of production, right? Our tiles that were working... This went from an 8-2 to a 6-7. So we gained a lot of production out of that, right? We don't necessarily need the food anymore. We do want the production. So that's something to keep in mind as we're going through that too. Let's get some robotics labs in. I want to see how good these are. Obviously, look at the ridiculous bonuses that we're going to get here. It counts as a maker's quarter. It counts as a research quarter. So it's getting all of the benefits that makers and research quarter has. Plus, we're getting all of the benefits of the robotics lab itself, which is production and science at a very high level. So let's see what we have as far as that's concerned. Look at this beautiful tile that we have right here. That is a +37 production, +56 science, and we'll throw some influence on top, +4, and we're going to build that in 1 turn. Wonderful. Plus, we're exploiting a little bit of extra tiles there. Wonderful. No surplus, so we'll keep it 1 city at a time. We're going to keep cranking robotics labs. We are actually at a stability loss here. Wait, what were we sitting at in our capital? Hold? What happened to our stability? We're at +21 there. But in the city of Lulaban, we actually are having some amount of trouble, which is interesting. What do we have to put in to fix that problem? Well, we can get 62 stability for a hospital. So let's go ahead and just throw a hospital in there. In fact, should we just buy a hospital? Could we just purchase a hospital? It would cost us 15k. That's a little spendy. I do think we'll put like a forest in here just to let's get the forest production kick-started, I guess. We'll drop our pollution levels for a moment and then keep things going. Fever season! An unusual wave of sickness has broken out in the overcrowded metropolis of Huatu. The origin of the illness is unknown. Some speculate it could be related to smog or pollution, while others say it could be something more dangerous. Or could it be just a spike in flu? In any case, the more elderly are filling the hospital wards. Do you institute quarantine measures now, or wait for longer? We can quarantine. That takes us down the science route. We're gonna increase our science by doing this for 10 turns and cost us money. We don't really care about money at this point in the game, and we definitely want the science. We're also not necessarily interested in going down the faith route, although I do really want to play a game where I just choose everything based off of faith, and I will do that at some point because I think it would be interesting just to see, can you even win a game that way? They always seem like the worst choice. We're going to quarantine. We're going to take that science.
Of an ideology axis.
Thank you, Mr. Narrator. All right.
Think of it as being focused, yes? Very goal-oriented.
Sure, absolutely. Let's end turn and keep things rolling. There is our first research. And here is the information on the end game conditions. How far will you push humankind? King Manish moves to the Japanese has entered the final era. Once any of the following has occurred, the emperor with the most fame will be declared the victor. The game ends when one of the following conditions are reached: earning every contemporary star, unlocking all the endgame texts, eliminating all other empires, vassalizing all other surviving empires. Either of those things work, or a combination of the two. Sending a mission to Mars, or rendering the world unfit for human life through pollution. So we discussed each of those. And again, the one with the most fame when any of those things happen will be the winner. So we're going to push for our mission to Mars. We're going to get...
Unfortunately, this time you are merely a bystander to someone else's glory.
Whose glory? Whose glory? What are you talking about? I'm so confused. The narrator gets confused, I think, sometimes. All right, we are doing perfectly fine on stability here. And let's see. Pollution is +6. So again, let's go ahead and buy out a forest. We'll just like throw a forest on boom. Turn that into a 6-9 tile. That's just completely ridiculous. And we'll go ahead and put in...
Congratulations on your amazing performance.
Oh.
You will be remembered as a leader among leaders. The first among equals.
Thanks. Here's a 50 production, 44 science, and 6 influence robotics lab right next to Machu Picchu. Looks beautiful. Let's do it. Am I replacing a district actually by doing that? I don't think so. That was actually just a perfect location. Love it. You'll love to see it. Corral just smashing out robotics labs. Just smashing them out. We're one-turning all of our robotics labs. Technically, we could just probably place a couple of these. That sucks to replace that tile, but what's a 7-6 tile when you could have a 52 industry, 46 science tile at this point in the game, you know? We'll throw a couple of those down just to get that city rolling. We're good on stability here, +48, and let's do, as we're doing this, we'll just buy out, like, once in each of our cities, we'll find, like, a river, just throw forest in it, drop our pollution, just in case, and, oh, what a spot, 50-45 on the hill, lovely robotics lab, lovely. Watu is probably still recovering from, yeah, just the... Remember the bug we had with this city? Poor Huatu. Poor. They have no pollution actually at this point, so we're just gonna start putting down our robotics labs. We can now start putting our robotics labs here. I don't know what happened to the stability here. Very interesting. We had that spike in stability drop. That's a lovely spot. We can also surround that with additional ones, which is great. And we have access to a new civic. Running Wild. The advent of urban planning, a scientific discipline dedicated to designing healthy, productive cities, draws attention to the Empire's young, their welfare, and their role in society. We now have the Children's Rights Civic. We can go child education, +1 researcher slot on city or outpost per research quarter. That sounds wonderful. Also pushes us further or keeps us at the end of the science ideology access. Or we can go child employment. Economic growth is first responsibility for all citizens, regardless of age. +1 worker slot on city per outpost, or outpost per maker quarter. So we can actually increase our worker slots by a substantial amount. But I think science is actually going to be the biggest thing that slows us down here. Although I don't think we have a problem with either of these. We're going to go with child education. We're actually going to enact it because I think getting these researchers in is going to be actually helpful for us, because I think we are sitting at pop cap in a couple of our cities. And so this is a nice way to increase pop cap. We have influence to spare.
The long-term
go ahead and do that.
strategy seems to be smarter if it's built on lifting everyone up.
True. Let's check our other civics while we're here. We don't really need that. Conquered empires, we're not doing that, so we're not interested in that. We're not building garrisons, although that can be a very useful one. Artistic expression, again, just changes our stability rates. And irreligion we don't want because our religion is quite nice, so we don't need to enact any of those, so we're looking good in that regard. The other thing to think about is if at this point in the game, if your culture is not dominant, if you're getting dominated by other people, you're going to probably have problems with osmosis events where you are going to be osmosising and costing yourself stability. So we obviously don't have stability problems, but some of those more stability-oriented buildings, civics, all of those things can become very useful if your culture is kind of waning and you're getting like impacted by other people. So as you'll see, like we have no problem with that. We basically have taken over everything but Plosiv's land. I am still very confused about how this border is just like perfection. Like there's no crossover here. 100% culturally, there is no blend. It's as if we had some sort, like, I just don't, it's so interesting that this all happened here. Like we have cultural dominance everywhere. But then, even though we started right next to Plosiv's continent, there's this line where there's just hasn't been any cultural crossover whatsoever. It's just, in my opinion, like, I just think it's fascinating that this has happened. And if we look at and I know we've talked about this before, but I'm still, if anyone can tell me why this is, I have no idea. Religious is almost the same thing. Like, look at the religious line. Despite the fact that Plosiv's religion is quite strong and has taken over an entire continent, there is no crossover here. My religion is not crossed over here. His religion is not crossed over to me. And except on like, these are his places on this is his place on this continent. That's the only crossover. I just have no idea. I would love to know how this happened, because I would love to replicate this in my future games. I think this is cool. I want to do it. I just want to know how to make this happen in other games, because it seems like it's very difficult to control this. Anyway, very interesting. I do actually know a little more about kind of some of the ideas behind this. Our friend Icarus, who, if you join the live streams, you know very well. We're going to actually go, at some point on the YouTube channel, go through a map that Icarus kind of modified, which is pretty cool. That was a Humankind map, and so I'll share that with you all. But Icarus did inform me on a couple things regarding holy sites and placement. Basically, you want to place holy sites in territories that are going to border other cultures, and that doesn't matter where the holy site is in particular, as long as that territory is bordering another person's territory. But like, that's what we did here, and there's been no crossover. I don't understand. Anyway, that's my spiel on that on that particular stuff. Let's end turn and keep this thing rolling. All right, there goes aerial warfare. So we now have access to our lovely and beautiful aluminum, so we can go through and actually, we don't have access to uranium, but we can see it now. We can see which ones are uranium. So let's take a quick peek and see where our aluminum is. Do we have aluminum? Uh-oh. Don't have aluminum on our continent. So we got to go to our second continent. We got tons of uranium. There is some aluminum. Perfect. What is this? Oh. Uh-oh. Deep water disaster. The demand of energy at record levels. Fossil fuel sites are pushing their equipment to the limit. In hindsight, an accident was inevitable. Close to your coastal well, unrefined oil is now spilling into the sea, threatening a massive natural disaster if maritime conditions worsen. How will you respond? We can clean it up. Wow, 400. Yeah, so this is where they need to fix things. I feel like they've gotten better at these with amplitude. The newer one of these disasters that they've introduced, they have balanced a lot of this out. Like something, I think I was playing last week, I got something that cost 1,000 gold. Early game. And I was like, I don't have 1,000 gold. I literally can't pay that. I like that. That's better in my opinion than I'm in end game making 10k gold per turn, and they're saying this cleanup of a massive disaster, a disaster worthy of like an event in game, is only going to cost me 400 gold. That's not balanced, right? So I would encourage Amplitude to go back and look at some of their older events and match the costs up with the actual era, because like this is kind of a joke. Like 400 gold, I don't even care at all. Of course I'm just going to clean it up, right? And it keeps me down science, and I avoid bad consequences. Like this needs to be like 10,000 gold in order to make it like that's one turn's worth of gold. Even that would only be 10,000 for me. And I know we're playing very well, and like we've obviously gotten some good benefits this game, but like I would jack this up through the roof. We'll clean it up.
You have reached the end of an ideology axis.
Thanks.
Of all the epithets other empires may use for you, wishy-washy won't be one of them.
True. So we're just gonna, why I did that is because I just want to get our aluminum in. So I was just searching for aluminum. We're just gonna buy it in. So that's the one aluminum we have access to. Is that really? Do we have access to one aluminum in our entire empire? We have access to one aluminum. That is fascinating. Now we have a bunch of uranium. So hopefully we don't need access to more. That might hold us back if we need access to more. Well, we might have to go. You know, we could always just go conquer Plosiv's land right here. Take the rest of this continent if we need it. All right, Tawanaku is ready. Probably we'll just buy out a forest here. Let's find a river, plop a forest on it, and then let's go ahead and start putting down our research quarters. There's a lovely spot for a research quarter. Let's go ahead and plop in 2 of them while we're here. That'll take us a couple turns at least. Nemosos is doing just fine on that. Let's go ahead and grab a couple of these. Yeah, this is our area for... Look at that. Look at that beauty right there. We'll stick that in. And that sounds great. We'll stick that in as well. Pericius. Do a quick check on pollution. We're at 11. So let's go ahead and snag these. If we can. Planting forest on river. There's a spot. And then we'll put in these. That's a replacement. Wait, that's on top of... What is that? What is this? Oh, that's our hamlet. Let's not put it on top of it. That doesn't seem exactly like... obviously, it's not going to be as good if we put it here. We'll surround it with some... It's fine. That will work. We'll go ahead and just... Oh, that was the one for that territory. Whoops. Look, it's fine. It's fine. Alright. Watu is... Stability still fine. In fact, stability is more than fine. Food is fine. Pollution is now just starting. But we could plop a couple more of these in. That's a great spot. And that seems wonderful as well. Might be able to put another one in right beside that, which would be really nice. So we'll do that. When we have to do something there, then we'll put another forest in just to combat that pollution gain. Plus 17 pollution. So we're now at 17 pollution, and so we're in danger of maneuvering kind of back and forth between our line of that low pollution level. And so we'll start to see the effect of that as we put in more of these. Let's go ahead and buy out a forest. We can put it right there. That should drop us down by 10, right back to 7 from reforested. But again, that appears to be a 2-turn condition, right? So in 2 turns, that reforested pollution level will drop back, and we'll have we'll increase by 10 again. So the effect of forest is actually again, I think we want to spread it out every 2 turns. We want to plop one in to take advantage of kind of decreased pollution levels across the board, which is kind of fascinating because that is not how I'd never looked into that before. I'd never looked into that particular what that meant. I guess it will be interesting to see as well what low pollution levels mean. But let's plug away. Radar has been researched. We're basically researching a tech a turn at this point, or a tech every 2 turns, which is again is like pretty wild. Stability is starting to drop, and so we might. We need. Oh, we have everything in this city. How are we having stability issues here? That's wild. Huh. We have 122 pop cap that we're not even exploiting at this point, which is also really interesting. Well, we're having stability problems, which I think is very interesting. I wonder if we had some trade routes get disrupted or broken. It's entirely possible. Let's throw in the rest of our robotics labs. I'm gonna take the higher science, I think. We're just gonna plop the rest of them in. That's on river. That's a high amount of science, though. It's a nice tile, though. You know what? It is a nice tile, but we're gonna burn the food for that, I think. We also could, technically speaking, implement our collective minds ability because we are playing a science affinity culture. You can set one city at a time into collective minds. All of the production. So all the industry and money are converted into science, which is absolutely... if we did... How fast would we research techs if we did that? I'm actually... Should we do that? Should we actually test that theory? Because we're already researching techs at 2 per turn. Well, let's wait until we get the robotics. Once the robotics labs are in, we're going to set that city. We're going to set Corral to do that and see how fast we can tech things. Because that's... The amount of industry in that particular city is substantially high, and so it should be wild. To be honest, I'm pretty sure that will be incredibly wild. All right, I think we're actually going to replace this hamlet because why not? So we'll replace this hamlet because we can, which is another thing you can do, especially on island chains. Because in order to build on different islands, you basically have to place a hamlet there, right? Or some other district that's free place. But if you put a hamlet there, you can then actually replace that hamlet with something else. And what you'll notice is once this is built, we'll be able to put another hamlet down. so we could then put a hamlet on something else and be able to build off of that that spot. So you could actually chain build over your hamlets and extend your hamlets out to different locations if you want to. That's especially helpful kind of on islands where you can't actually get anything to them unless you put a hamlet there. But you can only put one hamlet per territory. You could build over top of that hamlet and then replace it in a different island. We don't actually need to do that because we had a harbor here that got us access onto this one. But it's something to think about that you could possibly do in your games. A little bit. Let's keep getting. Let's get these guys. That's great. Let's put that there. That's fine. We'll put that there. And our final one's gonna go there. So we're just gonna do that. Our pollution is down, but we're still in that deforested state. So we'll see if that continues. More stealth activity. The Dutch has downgraded our treaty to cheap trade. Interesting. Yet they continue to buy things from us at a very rapid pace. All right. Nemosos is preparing to 6 pollution. They're not deforested either, so they just haven't put in. Wait, why is there not pollution coming from the robotics labs we put in here? Didn't we just finish robotics labs? Pretty sure we did. Let's throw the rest of our robotics labs down. And one more right there. Sounds great. That'll be the rest of our robotics labs. I'm not sure where the pollution is going in that city. That fascinates me. All right, we don't have any more robotics labs here. We can put down another hamlet, but again, we actually don't need to. So that hamlet is kind of useless to us. And so what we will do in this city is just continue to crank science effectively. And so let's go ahead and fill in around plus 71 science on just a flat research quarter. And that's because it's surrounded by, obviously, the robotics lab plus a couple of other research quarters. But, yeah, we'll just, let's throw a couple of, we'll just fill in this spot, these spots right here, just surround our robotics lab with those. That's going to be that city's job for a little while, is just producing that. We might start putting in some maker's quarters, although maker's quarters, because we've put in, I think, coal plants or whatever, maker's quarters do increase our, more maker's quarters will increase our level of pollution, so we just have to keep an eye on that. Watu is sitting at 5 pollution, and I think we'll just plop in the rest of our robotics labs here. That looks like a fine spot. And we got one more to put in, it looks like over here. That is smack dab between two. That seems like a wonderful location. And then we'll surround that with, because these are 2 strategics which benefit research quarters, and then we'll just surround that with research quarters. And that one's going to end up being an absolute menace of a robotics lab right there. All right, Tawanaku is sitting at 11 pollution. We could go ahead and throw a forest in on here, maybe. Nope, there's forest everywhere up there. It's not river, but we could still forest it. What about over here? Already forested. Okay, well, let's just throw it up here. See how that switched the food to production? Because now it's not a, it is no longer a like dry grass or whatever it was, right? Now it is a forest, and the forest gets production instead of food. So it's no longer a dry grass that's being exploited for food. It's now being exploited for production. So that's why I try to put them on river, because river gets you both. And the forest, if you don't have it on river, takes away the food and switches it to production. So you just have to be careful with that. We obviously don't care because our food is so abnormally high, but it's just something to think about. All right, that is all of those. And that actually, we have some surplus industry. So I wonder if we could put in like a really cheeky nature preserve anywhere. Nope. Or we could also just put in that. Would be lovely to get rid of that surplus up here. And I think we're sitting pretty in that city. A vile and ancient tradition. Golden age of piracy may be over, but the practice is far from ended. And now as then, any element of romance to it is purely the stuff of lurid fantasies. Violent maritime theft continues to blight the more remote waterways of the world, coastal lives as well as profits. Most recently, pirates have captured vast crude oil tanker bound for Tawanaku and demand an eye-watering ransom if we are to have our precious resources returned. We should take action against the pirates rather than meet their demands, or should we decree that this is the oil industry's mess to sort out? Interesting. This is what I'm talking about. This must be one of their newer events, because look, we can pay the ransom, but the ransom is 20,000 gold, which actually is 2 turns worth of gold for me, which actually is impactful. So I like it. I like it. This is much more better. Much gooder? This is much more balanced. We get celebrating plus 25 stability. We can delegate, leave the shipping firms in charge to deal with the loss, diverting fishing and supply vessels to guard our shipping lanes. That gets sacrificing, minus 35 food, but we get minus industry cost on units. We don't really need that either. We can assault. Send our most elite naval forces to hunt these dogs and reclaim our black gold. The people will cheer our heroes on, though the risk is great. This gets us patriotic, but chances of triggering another narrative event. Very interesting. So we can pay and get celebrating, which we don't particularly need. We can delegate, but we get sacrificing, which is bad for us. Or we have the chance of triggering another narrative event. I'm going to go down the road of assault because I'm interested in seeing what happens here. I love these events. I love these events in Humankind. And obviously you can tell from the last few that we've had, they're all based off of real life events and things that have happened. And that's what I love about the game. Okay, let's assault. We'll see what happens with that. All right. Rocket science has been researched. We are now deep into our end game condition. We also have another builder star. So we have 2 builder stars already and an agrarian star. We're not really worried about stars again because we're so far ahead in fame. We're actually going to rush it. Actually, we'll notice that Plosive has caught up to us a little bit. Only 6,000 fame behind, which is a huge amount, but that was higher at one point. Okay, Corral is ready to go. I was going to switch them into science. I don't think it's going to be necessary. We are going to put Corral on our space station project. So here is what we were going to do. We're going to kind of call this kind of the end of the episode. Let's get our space station project rolling. So our first build for our Mars endgame condition is our space station. This will then lead into our next project that you'll see once we have this built. Now, I think we're gonna, in fact, we can one-turn this with 1 city. Why can we one-turn this with 1 city? You will note that the industry cost of this is only 1,350. You will see that will go up substantially with our subsequent projects. This project is not super spendy. But the fact that we can one-turn this with only 1 city working on it is pretty impressive. Now, why is the production cost of this so low? There are a couple reasons for that, and that has to do with a couple things that we did. Number 1, Topkapi Palace actually reduces the industry cost. I think it's by 20%. It reduces the industry cost by 20% on project building. So that's any project that can be worked on by multiple cities. So that's wonders, that's project-based things, anything of that nature that can be built in a multi-city setting. And so obviously the space race buildings count as that. So the space station is one of those. The other reason this is so low is because we chose the Persians, another minus 25% on shared project industry cost. So shared project industry cost goes down by another 25% in regards to this because of the Persians. Is this... somebody's going to have to do the math for me or look at a different game that you've played. Somebody tell me how, like, we could do the math backwards too, but I'm super interested in how powerful this is because minus 25% on shared project industry cost comboed with Topkapi at minus 20, I believe it's minus 20%. That gets us what, to minus 45% industry cost? So we're essentially taking half of the production cost of a shared project off when we have combined the Persians with Topkapi in our capital, right? Because Topkapi only applies to the city that it's in. But that's ridiculous. That just seems absolutely incredibly powerful because we're gonna basically be endgame like now. It's because we're gonna one-turn every single project that we do. So we can actually stick this over here. I think that's actually kind of interesting. We've not done anything over here. Let's stick it right on this edge. So you'll notice that you need a large amount of space to put down the space station project. You cannot have any districts on the tile that you put this on. Any of the tiles in the green in that area can't be districts, right? So you see there's a district right there. As soon as we move it so that some of those tiles end up over top of either this harbor or this district right here, then we can no longer place it. that's something to keep in mind because you may actually have to burn districts down in order to do this. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when you build subsequent projects, you can actually just place it on top of your space station building. That's something that a lot of people don't know, and so that's something to keep in mind. So, boom, get our space station down. We're gonna one-turn that just with our capital working on it. That is wild. That is wild. All right, let's wrap up the rest of this turn, and we'll call it an episode. Now that we've got the space station down and I see the ridiculousness of the production we have, there will be one final episode of this Let's Play series next week, but we will definitely hit the end game condition next week, probably pretty early, actually, so we might get to do kind of a nice little review or recap of the game as well, which will be kind of fun. So we will do that in the next episode. But let's finish up this turn. Obviously, we can project into this space station, but we don't need to because it's getting built in one turn anyway. So Lulaban, whose stability is decent, whose pollution is at the very low marker. So let's just go ahead and buy in another forest, because why not? Just you know, on principle, really. Then we'll take a quick look at what we can get from some of these. We don't really need any of these. I don't want to jack up pollution anymore, so I think really we're just putting research quarters in. I personally think like research quarters bump our science up even higher, so I think we just kind of keep doing that. Or makers quarters, either of those will work, right? Tawanaku has got all their robotics labs in already. We do have access to a couple things that could benefit us here. Although stability-wise, like, we're doing just fine. But, you know, let's put in a public fountain and an apothecary just for the fun of it. And then this city can put in another research quarter. I think we just keep building them off over here, right? There's a 51. That's great. We'll get that city going. And our final thing that we need to do, because we beelined and got rocket science, and now we're already building our projects, the next thing we will need, and this is because I just know that we need access to it to build future projects off of the space station, is I know that we will need access to uranium, so that's something we're going to trend towards. That's going to get us Research Institute as well, because we can't get uranium without the Research Institute, so that's going to get us 100 fame, which obviously is something that's great to pick up. So let's tech to uranium enrichment, be able to put in our uranium and get access to that. Next episode, because I know that we're going to hit endgame pretty quickly, I'll walk through the rest of the tech tree and some of the important techs that we find along the way that aren't in relation to specifically the endgame condition of the Mars mission that we're going for, and so we'll kind of play around in the tech tree a little bit just to see what we're doing. Notice that we're also at 23.2 thousand science per turn. It's a very large amount of science. It's a very large amount of science. So it's been, man, this game is so much fun. I love the game of Humankind. Okay, let's call it an episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Look, next week, the epic and grand conclusion to our Let's Play Humankind series will occur. I am astounded at the speed at which we are going to be able to produce these projects. So tune in next week to see just how quickly we can hit that endgame condition. We'll also walk through a bit more of the tech tree and some other strategies that you may want to implement during the contemporary era, because our contemporary era is going to go insanely fast. We're not even going to collect stars, basically, because we're so far ahead, and we're just going to beeline this endgame condition. I guess we need to keep track of turns. We could look back and see what turn it was when we started this. I want to see how many turns it takes us to actually finish the game, because we'll see. I'll keep the math. I'll keep track of the math. We'll see how many turns it takes for us to actually end the game. But thank you for watching the video. Next week will be the epic conclusion. If you have not hit the thumbs up button and you like the content, please feel free to do so. Make sure you're subbed to the channel. I got some really cool future content ideas, both for Civilization 6. I've got some ideas that are going to come out for that after this Let's Play series, as well as a couple of one-off Humankind videos, and then a brand new Let's Play Humankind series in which I'm going to unveil my favorite strategy in the entire game. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.